4 teens shot in Baltimore overnight. A look at this latest crime as juvenile violence continues to rise. Fox 45 is continuing to hold your elected leaders accountable. We're hearing from House Speaker Adrian Jones following this week's juvenile crime hearing.
And I'm tracking our next weather maker. I'll let you know how showers could impact your Sunday plans coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
And Fox 45 following developing news. 4 teens are recovering after being shot overnight. 2 double shootings happening about 2 hours apart. You're taking a look at video from both scenes. The teens ranging in age from 14 to 17 years old. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Vincent Hill. Now, this comes as Baltimore police continue to tout that homicides and non-fatal shootings are down, but the numbers of juveniles shot and injured or shot and killed is up, according to the latest data. A 12-year-old shot outside Dunbar High School 2 weeks ago, and 2 teens shot just down from James McHenry Elementary School, the latest in a troubling trend. 4 teens shot within 2 hours in Baltimore Friday night. First, a double shooting in West Baltimore.
14-year-old female, foot and hip.
On Highlands, I believe there's a gunshot wound to the hip.
A 14-year-old girl and a 17-year-old boy transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Then just 2 miles away, in the heart of Little Italy.
I get in another discharge in 1000 block of Granby, 1000 block of Granby. Heard 10 shots, people running.
2 16-year-old boys shot and both taken to the hospital. Those shootings, just the latest in a troubling trend of juvenile violence this year in Baltimore. So far, 82 juveniles have been shot and injured, 13 shot and killed.
Unfortunately, the youth violence is where we are really suffering this year.
At last month's public safety meeting, Acting Commissioner Richard Worley pointing out the rise in juvenile shootings.
We've had a
than solutions to the ongoing juvenile crime crisis.
A virtual House Judiciary meeting to tackle the state's rising juvenile crime rates ends with more debate.
They got to discuss their frustrations, but as far as any policy ideas, it was completely MIA.
And no tangible solutions, despite state's attorneys across Maryland pressing lawmakers to change the current juvenile justice laws.
This legislation has put our children at risk, our communities at risk, and the entire state at risk of extreme chronic violence.
Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi seeing it this way.
Juvenile incarceration has declined, so has juvenile crime.
Schiraldi presenting at Wednesday's crime hearing, touting a decline in youth crime.
Youth crime is down over the last decade by half.
A view not reflective of the increase in juvenile car thefts and violent crimes in key parts of the state, including Baltimore and Montgomery County.
First of all, the statements of the Secretary about the falling numbers in terms of juvenile crime that's not what we've seen here in Montgomery County. If you actually compare the numbers between 21 and 22, we have nearly double the number of arrests in 22 than we had in 21.
He should have used data from the last 2 or 3 years.
Political analyst John Deedy not questioning the accuracy of the data presented by the DJS secretary.
The data he used was accurate but bad data. And what I mean by it was this. He used a 10-year time period. And sometimes when you want to make your argument, you use a longer strain of data.
Which Deedy says failed to convey the urgency of this moment, in which more than 7,000 people have fallen victim to car theft so far this year in Baltimore. And worse, he says Wednesday's attempt to curtail crimes committed by children displayed a deep divide on tackling these issues in the months ahead of the next session.
But people want to know what the policy ideas is. And this is where the governor and the General Assembly really need to step up to the plate.
Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you want to make your voice heard, we have their numbers and email addresses right there on your screen. And if you'd like to connect with more of your elected leaders, our website is making that easy for you. Just go to foxbaltimore.com, click the menu at the top left of your screen and select lawmakers. From there, you can enter your home address to find the officials who represent you at the local, state, and federal levels. So that brings us to our question of the day. Should Governor Moore be taking more of an active role in the juvenile crime crisis? So far, 100% of those who voted say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. All right, let's take a live look at Ocean City. The waves looking pretty calm right now after a swim restriction was put in place yesterday due to some dangerous rip currents from post-tropical cyclone Lee. Let's bring in meteorologist Jasmine Lomax for the latest on that storm. Jasmine.
Thanks, Vincent. We are still keeping track of it. It's leading to areas of heavy rain across parts of Maine and also into Canada, where it did make landfall. Now, we expect it to continue to weaken as it moves to the northeast. And once it enters the open Atlantic and those cooler waters, it'll start to fizzle out. And we'll also start to see the impacts on our oceans start to minimize as well over the next few days. Now, you will notice that we still have a couple of alerts in place. We have a beach hazard statement for Ocean City, and that's because there's the threat of dangerous rip currents tomorrow again. That runs through 8 p.m. There could be not only dangerous rip currents, but also dangerous swim conditions and also rough surf. So if you are heading to the beach, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to those warnings and staying safe. Here, we're talking a dry night, but tomorrow we'll have our round of rain. Coming up, I'll break down the timing of showers and impacts to your Sunday plans in my full forecast. Back to you.
The Ravens make their return to Cincinnati for the first time since that wild card loss in January. Lately, this AFC North rivalry has been controlled by the Bengals, with Cincy winning 4 of the last 5. Unlike 8 months ago, Lamar Jackson's healthy, and that's key. But the Ravens will be without Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Williams, who have both been ruled out due to injuries. While it's not ideal for a Ravens secondary set to face off with one of the league's best in Joe Burrow, the group they do have believes.
He's super disciplined in the way he plays. He takes what he can get, and the great ones do that. He's very good at knowing what you're in and what you're. If you're not holding your looks very well, he's gonna dice you up. So we gotta be disciplined on our looks and try to make it a little cloudy for him, not make it a clear picture. But yeah, like you say, he's a great quarterback, and it's a big challenge for us. And they have weapons all over the field. So, but like I said earlier, I think we have the guys to do it and contain it, and hopefully go out there and get a dub.
Still ahead, first place in the AL East on the line as the O's and Rays continue their series at Camden Yards. That and more when Sports Unlimited returns.
Superintendent of Maryland Schools won't seek to renew his contract. What may have led to that decision? And negotiations for the United Auto Workers resume today. What we're learning as lawmakers speak out on the strike.
The latest debate over book banning leads to some shocking moments on Capitol Hill. I'm Kayla Gaskins with that story straight ahead.
A shakeup in the future of education in Maryland. Current Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry has withdrawn his request for a second term. In a statement released Friday morning, school officials announced that he informed the state board that he is withdrawing his request for a second term to pursue, quote, other opportunities. Chaudhry was appointed to the role 2 years ago, but it wasn't long before staff members were complaining that his leadership style created a toxic work environment. Earlier this year, Project Baltimore reported that Chaudhry had removed test data from the state's website and was using an encrypted messaging app to communicate with fellow staff members. Just last weekend, the governor expressed concern about his ability to lead.
Part of the challenge that we have with the structure is that the governor doesn't decide that. I want transparency, I want accountability, and I want a superintendent that believes in it and can deliver it. The results we're seeing right now are not satisfactory results, and I demand better, and we need to make sure that we're getting better results for our kids.
Now, this announcement follows a series of Project Baltimore investigations that raised serious questions over transparency within the Maryland State Department of Education. As Chris Patz explains, the state school board was set to vote at the end of September on whether to offer him another contract, but that vote had already been delayed twice in the wake of Project Baltimore's findings.
Mr. Superintendent, have you ever used the Signal application in commission of your job?
I have no comment. Thank you much. Appreciate it. For my
job?
Well,
Project Baltimore last week first showed you that video.
You've never used Signal for your job?
thank you.
State Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry denying he used an encrypted messaging app for work. But we obtained screenshots showing he used the Signal app to communicate with high-level employees at the Maryland State Department of Education. The Signal app allows users to enable a setting to automatically delete messages. And some of the screenshots we obtained, like this one, appear to show Chaudhry berating an employee, which supports allegations that the state superintendent created a toxic workplace culture. But this was not the first time Chaudhry came under fire.
There cannot continue to be scandal after scandal after scandal.
Project Baltimore also reported how Chaudhry used a secondary email account to conduct state business, and that his state-issued cell phone was set to auto-delete text messages after 30 days. 12 of Chaudhry's text messages were deleted after FOX45 filed a public records request to obtain them, a potential violation of state law.
And it's dishonest. It's hiding the ball. It's hiding the truth from parents.
I am revamping the template.
Our investigation into the state superintendent started months ago when we analyzed state test results and found 23 Baltimore City schools where 0 students among those tested scored proficient in math. Shortly after we reported those results, the Maryland State Department of Education took the test scores off its website, heavily redacted them, and then reposted them. A move that kept parents and taxpayers from seeing how poorly some schools are performing.
Mr. Chaudhry.
That decision by MSDE sparked backlash. But when we tried to question Chaudhry about it,
Scores on the website,
he locked himself behind a door.
We're asking for the resignation of this individual, this state superintendent.
This week, in light of all of Project Baltimore's findings, 3 Republican lawmakers took a strong stance, calling on Chaudhry to resign immediately.
This I pondered for months, taking this stand, but we need, because of our children.
I think the toxicity of his leadership and the fact that so many people are leaving the education system is a good indicator that he's not the right person for the job.
In the wake of FOX45's findings, the Attorney General, State Prosecutor, and Inspector General for Education had all been called on by lawmakers and special interest groups to launch investigations into the superintendent's actions. And with time running out before the state board was set to make a decision, Governor Wes Moore, a Democrat, also came out strong this week when asked about Project Baltimore's reporting.
I want transparency, I want accountability, and I want a superintendent that believes in it and can deliver it.
Moore, who has repeatedly said he has no control over the state school board's decision to offer the superintendent another contract,
as well as
did have a strong opinion on Chaudhry's performance.
The results we're seeing right now are not satisfactory results, and I demand better, and we need to make sure that we're getting better results for our kids.
Now, just 5 days after the governor said he demands better, Chaudhry announced he will withdraw his request for a second contract as superintendent.
6% of the students were...
Project Baltimore has reached out to the state school board, asking when parents and taxpayers can expect more transparency. The transparency the governor and other lawmakers demanded. And we're asking whether MSDE will reverse course on its decision from earlier this year to heavily redact state test scores. As we receive updates, we'll pass them on to you. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
And for our full coverage on the controversy surrounding the state superintendent, including reports from Project Baltimore's investigation, head to FOX45.com. Coming up, more than 7,000 stolen cars in Baltimore so far this year. Hear from just some of the victims.
We certainly hope that it's going to lead to more tips.
Also, later, the search for Rachel Morin's killer. We'll show you the actions her family took today. But next, the shocking moments in a book battle on Capitol Hill this week. That's after the break. Well, the latest tussle over what books should be allowed in public school libraries led to some shocking moments on Capitol Hill this week. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has more.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
More than a few faces on Capitol Hill turning red Tuesday as Senator John Kennedy read explicit passages from two controversial books at the center of the book ban debate.
The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue. He asked me to turn over.
Next, the senator read from Genderqueer.
I can't wait to put it on you.
So-called book banning in schools and libraries turning deeply political across the country. In Illinois, a new law discourages so-called book bans, and its Secretary of State accuses Republicans of cherry-picking passages to push a narrative.
Our libraries have become targets by a movement that disingenuously claims to pursue freedom, but is instead promoting authoritarianism.
The other side of the debate says they aren't advocating for bans at all. One can still buy these books on Amazon. They simply believe they have no place in elementary schools.
As a society, we don't put Playboy in kindergartens. This isn't considered a book ban, but common sense.
Are you suggesting that only librarians should decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available to kids? Is that what you're saying?
No.
No one is advocating for sexually explicit content to be available in an elementary school library or a children's section of a library.
But some argue these books do benefit kids. For example, All Boys Aren't Blue covers sexual abuse.
Students who do not read books like All Boys Aren't Blue cannot learn what is appropriate.
I understand that.
They cannot learn.
I understand, but none of you want to answer.
The American Library Association said the number of book challenges doubled from 2021 to 2022. The debate appears to be only gaining momentum. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Coming up, it's been more than a month since Rachel Warren was found dead in Harford County. How her family helped in the search for her killer today. That's later. Also ahead, how the victims of 9/11 were honored at M&T Bank Stadium today. But next, the number of stolen cars skyrocketing this year. Hear from some of the victims. That's after the break.
Following a beautiful day, we are in for temperatures a little bit lower tomorrow, along with the chance for rain. I'll break down the timing of the rain and when to expect dry weather in my full forecast.
New tonight, 3 armed carjackings in Baltimore City in less than 24 hours, according to police. The first around 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon in southwest Baltimore. Police say a man was sitting in his car when carjacked at gunpoint by a male. Then around 2 o'clock this morning, police say a man was forced out of his truck by 3 men. One had a gun. And a half hour later, police responded to another in northwest Baltimore. All 3 cases, the suspects got away in the victim's car. No word if these are related. It's an ongoing investigation. Now, this news comes as the number of auto thefts in Baltimore continues to climb. In the first full week of September, more than 300 people became victims. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell has the numbers.
Victim, they just hopped out the car and just stole it. And the way they did it, they looked like bros.
After victim,
the wheel was like the whole ignition was completely like towards the dash, on like really high up. The seats were completely laid back. All the windows were broken.
After victim,
the dude sped off in my car. That's when I found my uncle laying on the ground.
And then there's some here in Baltimore simply waiting their turn.
It's not a matter of, hey, if my car will be stolen. No, it's when.
The city largely blaming the spike on a TikTok trend, prompting juveniles to hotwire Hyundais and Kias. But they're not the only cars being targeted. So far this year, there have been 7,401 car thefts reported across Baltimore, according to the latest statistics provided by Baltimore police. That translates to more than 28 cars a day. The statistics also show the majority of these criminals are getting away with the crime. Of the more than 7,000 car thefts reported, the data shows there have been 221 arrests, nearly half of them juveniles. That's less than 3%.
No, I had no idea who took it. I have no idea what happened to the people that took it.
Police say those arrested are often right back out on the streets, and prosecutors argue laws in the books are roadblocks to holding young people accountable.
It's very frustrating. You have officers doing their job, risking their life. You have victims who struggle to make the car payments, struggle to pay the insurance, doing what they can, and here comes a young kid, a child, stealing their car because it's a game. They think the system will hold that child accountable, but it's not happening.
The frustration prompting some Maryland lawmakers to call the head of the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services to the table. Meanwhile, dozens of people each day finding themselves out hundreds, in some cases thousands of dollars, and without a car.
It's frustrating, you know, I have to go through all this other extra financial situations with this.
A local economist warns it's only a matter of time before the city ultimately suffers.
When your car is stolen, to you, that's major. And people respond accordingly. If they have their car stolen, they move. They don't renew their lease. They don't buy that house in the first place, whatever it happens to be. So the economic impacts are major.
All right, Alexa, thank you. If you have a stolen car story or know someone who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, Fox 45 wants to hear about it. Just scan the QR code on your screen and tell us what happened, or send us an email at foxbaltimore.com. Well, it's been more than a month since the body of 37-year-old Rachel Warren was found on the Mott and Pa Trail in Bel Air. As the search for her killer continues, her family is still sharing information with the public that they hope will lead to an arrest. The family handing out these flyers today. Fox 45 reported first that the Moran family had enlisted the help of a criminal profiler to write a description of that suspect. The flyer listing the traits the profiler has identified so far, including that the suspect could be a serial killer. The family says it may help more people come forward with information.
We certainly hope that it's going to lead to more tips, and especially with people who speak Spanish. That's our main concern, is that the people who speak Spanish are reached in ways that maybe they were not previously. But we certainly will not rest until this person is caught and that he's no longer a threat to the community anymore.
And the Harford County Sheriff's Office telling Fox 45 that they're actually looking into leads in Chicago, but declined to explain why. The Sheriff's Office also releasing a video last week to discuss progress in the case. Sheriff Jeff Gaylor says investigators have collected and watched hours of video footage from around the trail, including houses and businesses. He says the department's forensic unit is reviewing text, phone calls, and cell phone location data. The sheriff also says this is not a cold case and, quote, far from it.
We are still receiving the results of technological and scientific evidence and following up on new leads. There is still work to be done, and I have not given up hope. My investigators have not given up hope that we will find the killer, and neither should you.
Now, this video marked the first update from the Sheriff's Office in over 2 weeks. And taking a look at video of the suspect, according to police, he's about 5'9", 160 pounds, and of Hispanic descent. In terms of finding a DNA match, one law enforcement expert believes detectives will use sites like 23andMe to find a potential distant relative of the suspect.
Like a cousin or a second cousin or a third cousin. And then that investigator has a lead to work from, knowing that they have a second or third cousin. And then they start making phone calls and, do you know so-and-so? Have you heard from so-and-so?
The reward for anyone with information leading to an arrest is up to $10,000. If you'd like to leave a tip, you can call the Harford County Sheriff's Office or email rmtips@hartfordsheriff.org. Post-tropical cyclone Lee made landfall this afternoon in Nova Scotia, but not before leaving a path of destruction across New England. Maine being hit especially hard, with thousands of folks still without power tonight. Meteorologist Emily Centum from our sister station in Portland, Maine, gives us a glimpse at the conditions earlier today.
We're in front of the wharf this time, and now the winds don't seem that bad, but as soon as we start walking towards the wharf, we have our trees that would usually protect us from the wind, but really towards the wharf, it's really when the wind is going to start picking up. We're looking at gusts 40, 50 miles per hour, so you can really see the wind starting to pick up over here. It stopped raining, which is good. Most of mid-coast and down east Maine will really see the rain for today. Other than that, what we're really fighting with, what most of Maine is fighting with today, is the wind. We have some large waves as well. If you take a look at the waves, they are just breaking in open water. Once again, we are in a harbor. So the water around us is just more so the wind's pushing it by, but we are taking a look on the ocean. Like I said, extremely choppy waves. We got some large waves hitting the islands out there too. We're thinking more so towards high tide. As we're heading towards high tide, I should say, those waves are going to start getting closer. Now, this island I was out here probably about an hour or two ago, there wasn't any water over that island. This is actually brand new that I'm seeing now for the first time. That water is starting to build over the island, and like I said, as we get closer to high tide, whoop, there's our big wind, guys. As we get closer to high tide, those waves are just going to be larger, and wow, this wind gust is not ending. Oh, there we go. So other than that, it's just going to be really windy. Not a day to spend outside by the water, as even near on the water, as it's just really windy out here. What I can say from being out here on a wharf, the birds are having a tough time. They're not into the flying part today. We're just mostly tracking these waves. They'll peak out towards the afternoon hour, probably early afternoon. Wind gusts, especially for the coast, will continue to grow stronger, as I think we'll max out more towards the afternoons.
Wow, take a look at that. She almost got blown away. Man, those winds were crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Luckily, nothing like that here, and it's cooling off a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're certainly in for cooler temperatures tomorrow, but we have our own round of rain that's coming. Fortunately, with our rain, we're not going to have those tropical storm conditions, just some showers that could get in the way of your plans for Sunday. Currently, though, it is nice and quiet with clear skies. Temperature is quickly starting to cool down, though. 61 over Baltimore with those nice and clear skies. Over the rest of the state, temperatures mainly in the 50s and 60s, but clear and quiet all around. It was a gorgeous day, plenty of sunshine. We'll keep the nice and clear conditions. Overnight, as temperatures drop to the 40s and 50s, it'll be another chilly morning as you step outside. And then for the afternoon, not quite as warm. Our temperatures only reach the mid-70s. We will have our next chance for showers. Then we're talking the upper 70s on Monday with another chance for a few spotty showers. After that, for Tuesday, we're back to the 80s and a little closer to average. We'll also begin a dry pattern that'll last for much of the week. Notice on the HD radar, it's still nice and dry around Maryland, but as we look toward Kentucky, we see a few areas of showers. All of that rain is heading to us tomorrow. And so if you do have any plans, especially for the afternoon, you may want to move them inside. As we continue overnight, more clouds start to arrive closer to daybreak. We start off with mostly dry weather around 8 a.m., but closer to noon, those showers start to move into the state. They'll continue off and on, and at times we could be looking at some areas of heavy rain, especially in the evening and into the night. So make sure if you're driving anywhere that you're driving safely, and be sure to check the radar before you head out. The rain will continue off and on overnight and into very early Monday. We could be waking up to a few showers along the eastern shore. Otherwise, showers will be more spotty throughout the day on Monday. It's Tuesday when we finally return to that nice and dry pattern, and that dry pattern lasts us all the way through the end of the week. So it really looks great after tomorrow and Monday, and we'll have beautiful fall temperatures that arrive. 56 for the low overnight with mostly clear skies, and we stay pretty quiet ahead of that weather maker. Tomorrow, 76 with the next round of showers. Temperatures well below average for this time of year, but we'll have a slight warming trend. We've got 78 on Monday with a few spotty showers. The day won't be a washout. And then we're back to the 80s on Tuesday. We'll have low humidity and plenty of sunshine. 82 for the high on Wednesday, 82 again on Thursday, and mostly sunny skies on both days. Then for Friday, partly cloudy skies as temperatures reach the upper 70s and the low 80s. We'll have a dry start to the weekend. Then for Saturday, temperatures reach the upper 70s and the low 80s once again. And we continue that dry pattern with temperatures seasonable in the upper 70s and the low 80s. Back to you.
Negotiations between United Auto Workers and the big three car manufacturers resumed today, more than 24 hours after the union went on strike. According to the UAW, negotiators had a productive discussion with representatives from Ford. Meanwhile, Chrysler's parent company, Stellantis, says the union rejected their latest offer. The automakers claim the proposal only worked out to about 21% increase over a 4-year period, which is still significantly below the 40% wage hike the UAW is demanding. Today, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman joined auto workers on the picket line.
My message to the CEOs is, at $74 million, collectively earning that, how many yachts can they need, to water ski behind it? It's just crazy. I don't understand it. It's just like, do what's right for the unions, in this nation.
Meanwhile, Republican presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy weighed in on the strike earlier today, saying that auto workers should shift the blame on the Biden administration.
Look, I empathize with workers who have seen wages not go up nearly at the same rate as prices have gone up. Inflation's up 16%, wages are up by a lot less. The people they should be really protesting against is the current administration that has given us the economic policies of inflation without wage growth to go along with it.
So far, both Ford and GM have confirmed that more than 2,000 UAW members have been laid off due to the strike. How the victims of 9/11 were honored at M&T Bank Stadium today when the news at 10 continues.